They said he crossed a line. They said a black janitor had no right to touch a billionaire woman, even as she lay dying on the floor. In one moment, he was just a single dad trying to finish his night shift. In the next, Darius Cole was kneeling on cold marble, breathing life into a stranger while people screamed at him to stop. He felt fists hit his back. He heard the word filthy, but he didn't move, because if he stopped, she would die. He saved her life, and for that, he lost everything. By morning, his name was dragged through headlines. His hands were called a crime. His daughter watched strangers laugh at her father on a screen, and Darius lay awake, staring into the dark, wondering how doing the right thing could destroy a man so completely. Stay with this story, because what happens next will expose a truth so brutal, it will change everything you think you know about justice. The Sterling boardroom on the 32nd floor of Hartman Tower, Baltimore, smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the inner harbor like a postcard. Clean, distant, untouchable. This was where power lived, where decisions were made without ever touching the ground. At the far end of the room, Evelyn Hartman, CEO of Hartman Global Group, stood confident and composed, clicking through slides as executives nodded along. Numbers rose. Profits climbed. Everything was under control, until it wasn't. Her voice faltered mid-sentence. One hand pressed to her chest. The room froze. "Evelyn," someone said, half annoyed, half confused. She swayed once, then collapsed. For 2 seconds, maybe 3, no one moved. 7 people in tailored suits, Ivy League educations, corner offices, all of them staring at a woman turning blue on the marble floor. Someone whispered, "Is this a joke?" Another muttered, "Call security." No one knelt down. No one checked her pulse, except the man who wasn't supposed to be there. At the side entrance, Darius Cole had just finished mopping the hallway outside the executive floor. He was pushing his cart back toward the service elevator when he heard shouting. Sharp, panicked, wrong. He looked through the glass wall and saw her on the floor, and he dropped everything. "Call 911, she's not breathing." His voice cut through the room like a crack of thunder. Heads snapped toward him, faces tightened. "What is he doing here?" "Security! You, get out!" Darius didn't slow down. He crossed the room in seconds, ignoring the way people stepped back from him, as if panic were contagious, or maybe something else. He knelt beside Evelyn Hartman, pressed 2 fingers to her neck. No pulse. His chest tightened, but his hands were steady. "I know CPR," he said, more to himself than to them. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and leaned down. And that's when the room erupted. "Is he kissing her? That's disgusting! Get him off her!" A sharp pain exploded across Darius's shoulder. Someone had struck him. Hard. He grunted but didn't stop. 2 breaths. Chest compressions. 1, 2, 3. Another hit landed against his back. "Don't touch her, you filthy janitor!" He clenched his jaw and kept counting. 4, 5, 6. In his mind, he heard the instructor's voice from a free CPR class he'd taken years ago at Harborview Community Center. A class he'd only attended because they offered grocery vouchers. If they're not breathing, you are their lungs. Darius leaned down again, breathing life into a woman the room was too afraid or too privileged to touch. Then Evelyn Hartman's chest jerked. She coughed violently, gasping for air, like someone pulled back from the bottom of the ocean. For a split second, the room went silent. Then chaos. Executives rushed forward, voices suddenly urgent, hands suddenly brave. Paramedics stormed in moments later. Darius stumbled back, his arms shaking, his back on fire. He barely noticed when a tall man in a Navy suit stepped toward him. Richard Vale, the CFO. "What's your name?" Vale asked, his tone cold. "Darius Cole," he said. "I work night shift." "You put your mouth on Ms. Hartman." "She wasn't breathing," Darius replied. "I saved her life." Vale's lip curled. "We'll be reviewing the footage. Leave. Immediately." No one thanked him. No one met his eyes. Darius picked up his mop bucket and walked out like he had done something wrong. That night, the city felt heavier. The bus rattled through West Baltimore, past boarded-up buildings and flickering streetlights. Darius sat hunched forward, his shoulder throbbing, his hands still trembling. When he opened the apartment door, Ava ran toward him barefoot, her hair messy, her smile worried. "You're late, Daddy." "I'm okay," he said automatically, a lie he learned to say easily. Dinner was reheated mac and cheese. Ava talked about school. Darius nodded, but his mind was still in that boardroom, still hearing the word filthy. After Ava fell asleep, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment Evelyn Hartman breathed again. He had done the right thing, so why did it feel like punishment was coming? The next morning he found out. At the entrance of Hartman Tower, a security guard held out an arm. "You can't enter." "I work here," Darius said. "Night shift, floor 22. I was instructed not to let you in." No explanation, no eye contact. HR handed him a sealed envelope. "Inappropriate conduct involving senior personnel," the supervisor said flatly. "Terminated, effective immediately." By noon, the rumor was everywhere. A co-worker sent him a screenshot. That janitor creep was all over Ms. Hartman. Another message followed. "Looked like assault to me." Then the image appeared. Grainy, frozen, Darius leaning down during CPR. Context erased, truth distorted. By evening, blogs were running headlines. By night, strangers were laughing at him at the bus stop. At home, Ava asked quietly, "Why are people being mean to you?" Darius knelt in front of her, swallowing hard. "Sometimes," he said, "people are scared of what they don't understand." But that wasn't the whole truth. The truth was harder. In this city, a black man touching a powerful white woman, even to save her life, was always going to be questioned. That night, Darius lay awake listening to sirens in the distance, wondering how fast a good deed could become a crime. High above the city in a silent penthouse, Evelyn Hartman jolted awake from a nightmare, gasping, clutching her chest, haunted by the sound of a voice she didn't yet know. Before you move on, this is where the story truly begins. So let me ask you, have you ever seen the truth twisted because of someone's skin color? Yes or no? Stay with this story, because in the next part, the lie grows louder and the truth fights back. By the third day, the city had already decided who Darius Cole was. Not a father, not a worker, not the man who saved a life. Just a headline, just a rumor. Just another black man people felt comfortable judging without asking questions. Darius learned that the hard way when he walked into a small cleaning company on East Lombard Street. Resume folded carefully in his jacket pocket. The owner barely glanced at it. "You worked at Hartman Global?" the man asked. "Yes, sir." The owner leaned back, arms crossed. "I heard about that situation." Darius nodded slowly. "Then you heard wrong." The man didn't smile. "I can't afford controversy. Clients don't like attention." "Attention?" Darius repeated quietly. "You mean saving someone's life?" The owner stood up, already done. "Try somewhere else." Outside, the wind cut through Darius's thin jacket. He walked 3 blocks before his legs gave out, and he sat on a bus bench, staring at his hands. These were the same hands that had kept a heart beating. Now they were treated like evidence of a crime. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "That video was nasty. What were you thinking?" Then another. "You people always get away with too much." He turned the phone off. At home, Ava was sitting at the small kitchen table coloring, her feet dangling. Mrs. Ruth Bennett, their elderly neighbor, was stirring soup on the stove. "They talking about you on the news?" Ruth said softly without turning around. Darius's chest tightened. "What kind of talking?" "The kind that hurts," she replied. That night, Ava climbed into bed beside him, curling into his side like she had when she was younger. "Daddy," she whispered, "are we bad people?" The question hit him harder than any blow in that boardroom. "No," he said quickly, then slower, more carefully. "No, baby, we're not bad." "Then why do they hate you?" Darius stared at the ceiling, the silence stretching. "Sometimes," he finally said, "people decide who you are before they know you." Across the city, Evelyn Hartman sat alone in her penthouse, untouched breakfast growing cold on the counter. Her heart was fine. The doctors had said so. Physically, she was already healing, but something else was wrong. Every night she dreamed of darkness, of air running out, of a voice pulling her back. She still didn't know his name. At the office, executives avoided her eyes. HR reports were vague. Legal memos were careful. The situation has been handled, they told her. Handled how? That afternoon, Evelyn demanded the security footage. When the video loaded, she leaned closer. She watched herself collapse. She watched everyone freeze. And then she saw him, a black man in a gray janitor's uniform running toward her while the rest of the room stayed rooted in place. She watched him get hit, watched him keep going, watched him save her life. By the time the video ended, Evelyn's hands were shaking. "Who is he?" she asked her head of security, Calvin Moore. A pause. "Darius Cole." "What happened to him?" Another pause. Longer. "He was terminated. HR cited inappropriate conduct." Evelyn stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. "Inappropriate," she repeated, her voice dangerously calm. She had spent her life believing systems worked, that if something was wrong, someone would fix it. But now she saw it clearly. The system had worked exactly as designed, and it had crushed the wrong man. Darius didn't know any of that. What he knew was that the rent notice was taped to his door. What he knew was that the fridge was almost empty. What he knew was that Ava was pretending not to notice. On the fourth morning, he didn't get out of bed. His body felt heavy, like the weight of the city had settled into his bones. His shoulders still burned where he'd been struck. His head throbbed. He hadn't eaten since the night before. Ruth knocked softly. No answer. She opened the door. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. Darius was burning up, shivering under 2 blankets. His lips were dry, his breathing shallow. Ruth grabbed the phone, her hands trembling. Evelyn Hartman drove herself for the first time in years. No driver, no security detail. Just her, the wheel, and a growing sense of shame. West Baltimore looked nothing like the world she ruled from glass towers. Cracked sidewalks, faded murals, children playing in coats too thin for the cold. She parked in front of a brown building with peeling paint. A little girl opened the door. "You're the lady from the billboard," Ava said quietly. Evelyn swallowed. "I'm looking for your dad." Ava's eyes filled with tears. "He won't wake up." Inside, Evelyn saw him. The man who had saved her life was curled on a thin mattress, skin ashen, chest barely rising. Something inside her broke. "Call an ambulance," she said sharply. As paramedics worked, Evelyn held Darius's hand, ignoring the looks from neighbors watching through cracked doors. "You saved me," she whispered. "I should have protected you." At the hospital, doctors spoke in urgent tones. Dehydration, exhaustion, malnutrition, stress-induced collapse. All preventable, all consequences. When Darius finally opened his eyes, he looked confused, then wary. "Why are you here?" he rasped. Evelyn met his gaze. No power left in her voice, only truth. "Because I let the world destroy you while I stayed silent." He turned his face away, tears slipping into the pillow. "They already decided who I was," he said. "It didn't matter what I did." Evelyn nodded. "It mattered. I just didn't listen soon enough." Outside the room, phones were already buzzing. A CEO visiting a fired black janitor, an ambulance ride, a story no one expected. The lie had gone far, but the truth was about to push back, and this time, it wouldn't be quiet. Darius Cole woke to the steady rhythm of a monitor and the unfamiliar smell of antiseptic. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then memory rushed back. The boardroom, the blows, the whispers, the long nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how a good deed had turned into a verdict. He tried to sit up. Pain flared, sharp and real. "Easy," a nurse said, guiding him back. "You gave us a scare." Darius nodded faintly. His throat felt raw. "My daughter?" "She's safe," the nurse replied. "She's with someone who cares about her very much." When the door opened again, Evelyn Hartman stepped in. Not in a tailored suit this time, but in a simple sweater and jeans. No entourage, no distance. Just a woman carrying the weight of a choice she wished she had made sooner. They looked at each other in silence. "I watched the footage," she said at last. "All of it. I saw you step forward when no one else did. I saw them hit you. I saw you keep going." Darius swallowed. "Then you saw enough." "I saw more than enough," Evelyn said. "I saw the truth get buried, and I let it happen." He turned his face toward the window, Baltimore gray and cold beyond the glass. Truth doesn't travel well when it comes from people like me. Evelyn didn't argue. She didn't apologize again. Instead, she took out a folded document and placed it on the table between them. "This is a sworn statement," she said. "Public, on record. It states that your actions were life-saving CPR, appropriate and necessary. No misconduct, no ambiguity." Darius stared at the paper, his hands shaking as he read. For the first time since the boardroom, something inside his chest loosened. "And this," Evelyn continued, "is an apology, also public. From me, from the company." He looked up, disbelief flickering across his face. "That won't undo what happened." "No," she said quietly, "but it will tell the truth. And the truth has a way of traveling farther than lies when someone with power finally stops blocking the road." The next morning, the city woke to a different headline. Not a rumor, not a leak, a statement. The video was released in full, uncut, unedited. People watched executives freeze, watched a black janitor run forward, watched him get struck, watched him refuse to stop, watched a life return. The comment sections shifted, slowly, then all at once. Some tried to hold on to the lie, but most couldn't. By noon, Hartman Global Group announced sweeping changes: an internal investigation, immediate suspensions, a review of HR practices that had weaponized optics against humanity. By evening, Evelyn stood before the cameras. "I survived because a man the system taught us to ignore refused to look away," she said. "And I failed him when it mattered most. That ends today." At the hospital, Ava watched the press conference on a small TV, her feet tucked under her on the chair. When Darius squeezed her hand, she squeezed back twice as hard. "They're saying good things about you," she whispered. He smiled softly. "They're finally saying the truth." Darius was discharged 2 days later. Evelyn made good on every promise. Not as charity, but as repair. A safe apartment, groceries stocked, medical care for Ruth Bennett, who cried quietly when she realized she could finally afford treatment without choosing between medicine and heat. But the biggest change came with an offer Darius didn't expect. Evelyn didn't offer him a title to make a headline. She offered him responsibility. "I want you to build something," she said, sitting across from him in a small conference room. Not the sterling boardroom, but a plain space with open windows. An employee welfare office. Independent, protected, run by someone who knows what it means to be invisible. Darius hesitated. "I'm not a symbol." "Good," Evelyn replied. "I don't need a symbol. I need a standard." He thought of the night shift workers who kept buildings alive while being treated like shadows. The people who knew every back hallway but were never invited through the front door. "I'll do it," he said slowly, "but not for applause." "Then we're aligned," Evelyn said. 6 months later, Darius stood in front of a packed room at a national labor conference. Not in a uniform, not in a suit that didn't belong to him, just himself. "My name is Darius Cole," he began. "I'm not perfect. I've been poor. I've been ignored. I've been judged before I ever spoke. And I know I'm not alone." He talked about systems that punish the right choices when they come from the wrong people. About how racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers policy and hides behind procedure. When he finished, the applause wasn't polite, it was heavy, earned. Ava ran onto the stage and hugged him, her laughter cutting through the room. That night on the balcony of their new apartment, Darius looked out over the city lights. Baltimore hadn't changed overnight. Injustice didn't vanish because one story went right. But something had shifted. He was no longer invisible, and he wouldn't let the system forget the others who still were. Justice, he realized, wasn't about being perfect. It was about refusing to disappear. And sometimes the bravest thing a person could do was be seen and make room for others to be seen too. Now let me ask you something, honestly. How did this story make you feel? Do you think Darius deserved justice long before the world gave it to him? Did this story change the way you think about racial bias and who gets believed? If you felt something while watching this, comment 111 below. Tell us which country you're watching from. And if this story moved you, please share it, because stories like this deserve to be seen.